Thank you, Madam Speaker. Passionate speeches on this side of the House, which shows the love we have for this country and the outcry of all the opposition parties further to the fear of this manipulative strategy or so-called reform of this government for our multi-ethnic population. 50 years after its independence, Madam Speaker, Mauritius is now going through a critical period whereby we are witnessing that our freedom is being baffled. It is indeed a dark period of our history, and this will be forever engraved. In the next 50 years, when we will celebrate the centennial of our independence, this reform bill, if ever it passes a voting stage, will be used as one of the best case study of a worst example in universities and the academic world. Generations to come will laugh at us and at the inheritance we have left for them. Madam Speaker, while there is a consensus in this House that our electoral system has served its purpose for half a century, this present bill will in no way improve or enlarge our democratic space. On the contrary, it will bring more problems than it is attempting to solve. It will bring more frustrations and disappointment among the electorate. Members from the other side should hear what is being said outside this House. Maybe they don't know, since some MPs are not being able to show their faces in their constituencies. Let me therefore convey a few of the comments. This is a reform to suit a hidden agenda of the government. It is not representative of all sections of the Mauritian nation. The electoral and demographic profile of the country has changed. The majority of the 60s, 70s, 80s are no longer the majority of this millennium. We are in 2018 and not in 1976, Madam Speaker. The whole system had been lopsided since 1972 because it is precisely the census of 1972 that has been used in the various elections that followed, especially for the nomination of best losers. For 10 general elections, for almost 40 years, we have made to believe that the demographic profile based on communities had been static. No, Madam Speaker. Demographic is dynamic, and we know why in some quarters there is a lot of resistance for a new population census. For how long will we keep sweeping the dust under the carpet? We certainly cannot fool all the people all the time, Madam Speaker. The fathers of our constitutions, in their wisdom, had very thoughtfully decided that all the sections of the population have to be fairly represented. Our present electoral system has served us well. Let us please, not to show ingratitude. Let us be grateful to those who left us with a system that has stood the test of time. Madam Speaker, there have been changes. The Mauritian citizen of today is more alert, more informed, more educated, and more intelligent to understand where this government is taking us. In fact, the MSM in all governments have always been resistant to changing the present system because it has always suited their purpose then. There is a fear among members of this government today because people have realized that the tides have turned. They are now asking some serious questions as to why we should always have a specific community and a specific caste at the helm of the government. What in real terms make the majority of the Mauritian population today? In 40 years, several generations have come up, and the population today wants to know who really holds the majority. Besides, we agree that the clarification of the communities into Hindus, Muslims, and Chinese is in itself rather obsolete, absurd, and even anachronistic, to say the least. This is an opportunity to do away with this adversity, Madam Speaker. We have all along been decrying the electoral boundaries, the way they are now. The statement of the leader of the opposition to the Electoral Boundaries Commission last September, as per Section 39 of our Constitution, to decry the largesse and the distortion of the democratic will of our population being baffled due to the inappropriate electoral boundaries. Certain people in and outside this House have expressed the dangers of gerrymandering. But in fact, we all know that what has been happening in the past is a disguise from gerrymandering. You can just look at the density of the population in some constituencies and the number of voters and their communal profile to reveal that demarcation line over boundaries have been carefully and shrewdly crafted and calculated to further the gains of whoever wants to stay in power. Madam Speaker, in spite of all this, we should admit that the first past the post and the best loser system have brought stability to the country and our complex, multi-ethnic society. No system is perfect, but any democratic system that brings more and fairer representability and stability cannot be bad. Moreover, Madam Speaker, this proposed system, I will refer here to the subpart C of the first schedule of the bill, provisions which intends to give enormous power to some political leaders, the leaders for life, who are already very powerful. Madam Speaker, when we look at this bill, it creates a havoc in the mind, as if bits and pieces of some sort of reform has been collated and presented to this House to show that the government means business. Only this government has been able to present an electoral reform. It is indeed a caricature, as rightly pointed out by Honorable Ganu. Madam Speaker, a bit of gender equality here, a bit of anti-defection provision there, a sort of twin of the best loser system. That is what is being presented to this House by this government, when it promised in its electoral manifesto for a full-fledged anti-defection law to deter the politics of opportunism, not only for those turncoats or unreturned candidates who backstabbed their mother party and obtained a seat in this august assembly, but also who prove a serious disrespect to the mandate of the people in lieu of office, ministerial trappings, and power. Madam Speaker, coming back to subpart C of the bill, the fear is that party leadership has been the cause of splits and disaffection. Now it is being requested to have the party leaders to nominate members on the party list and for the best losers. If we look at the current stance of this government, and with this provision, we shall not be surprised to count among the powerful advisors of the PMO on the PR list, like what is happening in constituencies number 6 and number 7 it will not be abnormal if we find Prancas with his superpowers getting through the back door. Madam Speaker, this provision is a knife in the back of those MPs and candidates who toil their constituencies day and night, went through the poll, and are democratically elected and having nominees in the waiting to bleed the population white. This provision, Madam Speaker, is more a regressive one, allowing leeway for corruption, the increase in yes men, bootlickers. We ask ourselves, where are we heading with this blunder towards our democracy? The blunder towards the voters. For sure, the response of the electorate in the next general elections will be of corrective nature. Madam Speaker, if we look at subpart C, section 8, allocation of additional seats, the increase in the number of seats to 85, once again, the government fails to hear the public outcry. Already, our members and the outrageous number of ministers for such a small country is beyond imagination. The salaries and perks of our ministers, including their pensions, have for years been a bitter pill for the electorate and taxpayers. Now we are being told that we need 23 more members. It shows clearly that this government does not have the interests of the country and its population at heart. They are far from that. Gouverner pour le peuple, avec le peuple, et dans l'intérêt de toute la nation. But more unabashedly, governing for themselves. Madam Speaker, how will there be any improvement to the lot of the lower middle class and the downtrodden citizen of this country by such an increase in the budget of the House and government? Or they just find a parade, just trying to justify the raison d'être of this reform. If you go out on the streets, Madam Speaker, and ask 10 people who the PPS of such and such constituencies are, you will be surprised, Madam Speaker, on the number of people who will be in a position to answer you. Even some ministers, in spite of appearing on local TV, day in, day out, are not known. If you go in, go in town, Madam Speaker, if you go in town now and ask the common man, who is the Minister of Environment? I bet 9 out of 10. No. If you are lucky, they may remember Honorable Dayal as a Minister of Environment. Madam Speaker, why do we need so many seats now to add to the burden of the taxpayer? Will more members mean more ministers? More PPS? Is it jobs for cronies, Madam Speaker? Like what has been and still is happening with nominations in the parastatal bodies and government corporations. They keep creating authorities on authorities, commissions on commissions, ombudsman to make space for the cronies. Madam Speaker, we are almost at the end of a mandate and almost on the doorstep of the next election. This government hidden strategy pervades this electoral bill and reform. Madam Speaker, coming back to the bill, I must say that the proposed PR and its mode of allocating the seats look complex and murky for the common man. It is a fact that the voter should be at the center and our preoccupation and not some hidden agenda. For some people, it makes sense because for them, politics is more of a game or gamble. And this is why the electorate answers back by seeing politics as a dirty game. Or They are all the same. Oh, everything is possible in politics. No, Madam Speaker, everything is not possible in politics. When we hear some of the speakers on the other side of the House, we get the feel of the frustration that their proposed bill is not being digested, even getting to animosity as if the bill has been casted in stone. You would recall how the PMSD left this government in December 2016, the hastiness with which the prosecution commission bill was being brought forward without diligent examination or consultation of concerned stakeholders and the Bar Council. History is doomed to repeat itself with this government, Madam Speaker. This side of the House is only voicing out what our multi-ethnic population is saying, when no consultation is made with political parties, no concern shown towards a voter's opinion, and when manipulating our constitution becomes the parody of a one-man show government, the Constitution Amendment Bill number 22 of 2018 is doomed to fail. Those who drafted this bill did not have in mind the voters or the electorate as such. But now, they can assure a victory in the next election. How? They can win the maximum number of seats, when this bill should have been a completely dispassionate and disinterested one. Madam Speaker, we have had so many reports and commissions. The Caucasian report, the SAC reports, the Select Committee, the Sit-in report, to name but a few, Madam Speaker. What has happened to them? If not all gathering a thick coat of dust in some government drawers. This one, Madam Speaker, looks more like a mismatch done hastily and au petit bonheur, just because we are getting nearer and nearer to the next election and because of the UN. If this government really means business, this should have been its priority. On this side of the House, we take strong exceptions to the way the PR and the additional seats will be manipulated. This government is playing with fire, Madam Speaker. If this bill passes, come next elections, we will find ourselves with numerous court cases of candidates and other stakeholders contesting these nominations. It is clear that the whole exercise looks rather flimsy and has no strong foundation. In some countries, such reforms have caused havoc over an election. Countries nearest to us, like Kenya and Zimbabwe. If we do not have a better system to propose, let us not sacrifice the stability of this country on the altar of a so-called electoral reform or enlargement of democracy. This system has worked. If it works, why are they trying to fix it with these 4 pages? Before ending, Madam Speaker, let me come to the thorny issue, the apple of discord, the core and the very reason for this bill in front of the House today, the best loser system. All along, the PMSD has been for the maintenance of the best loser system. We are consistent on this. We have not changed an iota, Madam Speaker. When we took our stand on this, there were loud cries of disapproval from various quarters. If we were termed reactionaries or passéistes, that we were against progress, what have we seen now, Madam Speaker? The best loser system has become additional seats. In fact, we are making a fool of the electorate. This clause of the bill is marks of hypocrisy, Madam Speaker. This government is known for changing names of things from Metro Léger to Metro Express. Today, What message is this government sending outside this house? That we have no alternative to the best loser system, except by changing its name? They have only changed the package to make it more edible, more marketable, more sellable? Madam Speaker, on what basis are we going to nominate the additional seats? If not on the same good old system of communities, race and religions, with the same census and statistics of 1972? With the minorities and so-called general population taking a backseat in all spheres of political, social, and economic life of this country. For too long, Madam Speaker, the general population has been neglected in some quarters, like the backyard of a warehouse for keeping goods, not good enough for the showroom. It is high time they are brought back to the showroom, and the only way to do this is by having a real population census. For too long, we have been made to believe that religion, race, color, creed, community are the essentials of our democracy. We have classified people by what we think them, different based on obsolete 40 years old figures. The electorate is watching every move of ours during this debate, Madam Speaker. This is a golden opportunity to address this issue of majority and minority once for all. It is better we debate and quarrel among ourselves in this house, instead of the whole thing spilling out of this house into the crowds in the course of an election campaign or after the proclamation of the results. Madam Speaker, today is a sad day for democracy. The nation builders of this country and the fathers of our constitution and democratic system should be turning in their graves when they see this mockery of a reform brought in front of this house by this government. I wonder, Madam Speaker, if the Prime Minister himself and his government are sincerely convinced about the validity and success of this reform. We on the side of this house, are against a reform that will bring more ill will and disappointment among the people. Controversial manipulation may be risky for our small island, with our multiracial and multicultural context, which may flare up social tensions and threaten our island's peace and harmony, which we have been enjoying for the past 50 years, Madam Speaker. And 50 years down the line, Madam Speaker, we should already have enough maturity to come up with a well-consulted new electoral system that takes care of the democratic expectations of the people. The common man, the workers, the civil society, the youth of this country are all indifferent to what this government is doing, unless there's mass consensus on and public commitment and sincerity of purpose on behalf of this government. We just cannot go along with this bill. And before I end, Madam Speaker, I will not go long to say against what my dear colleagues, Mr. Gayan, said. For us, I just want to say that this bill, we will not accept this bill on this side of the opposition, and with that, I thank you, Madam Speaker.